A shadow over Earth. As dawn broke over the sprawling cities of Earth, a dark shadow loomed in the sky, blotting out the sun. Massive warships, sleek and menacing, descended from the heavens like harbingers of doom. Their presence sent shivers down the spines of every man, woman, and child gazing upward in disbelief. This was no ordinary sight. It was a clear signal that humanity was about to face its greatest challenge yet. The Galactic Council had arrived, their intentions crystal clear through a brief but chilling communication. Mankind was ordered to surrender 1/3 of its resources annually along with a quota of human laborers as tribute. Failure to comply would result in complete extermination. There would be no negotiations, no second chances, just an ultimatum that echoed through every corner of Earth. Humanity's initial reaction. Panic swept through cities like wildfire. News outlets buzzed with reports, while social media exploded with fear and outrage. People fell to their knees, praying for salvation or cursing their fate. How could this be happening? How could an alien race demand tribute from a species that had fought so hard for its place in the universe? Yet amid this chaos, something else began to stir. A collective anger fueled by an indomitable spirit that refused to be cowed by threats from extraterrestrial oppressors. As families huddled together, whispers turned into chants. Defiance began to rise like a phoenix from the ashes of despair. Vincent Jackson, a beacon of hope. In a command center deep beneath the surface, Vincent Jackson donned his ambassador's uniform with resolve etched on his face. He was not just any representative. He was Earth's voice against tyranny. As he strode into the council chamber on Mars Colony, he held his head high, determined not to show fear despite the overwhelming military force surrounding him. The council chamber was filled with representatives from various alien races, all eyes fixed on him as he entered. Among them was Counselor Sirius, a Raymond whose sneer conveyed disdain for humanity's chances against their technologically advanced civilization. "You think you can refuse us?" Sirius mocked, his voice dripping with contempt. "You're merely delaying your inevitable extinction." But Vincent stood firm, his heart pounding with righteous fury. "We will not pay tribute," he declared boldly. "We are not your subjects to be enslaved or exploited." The council's arrogance. Sirius's laughter echoed through the chamber, but behind his facade lay a flicker of uncertainty. He had underestimated humanity's tenacity before. Perhaps he did so again now. As Vincent left the chamber, he felt a surge of pride mixed with dread. He had made Earth's position unequivocally clear. However, within hours, disaster struck. The Council's warships unleashed hell upon 3 frontier human colonies. Cities were obliterated, and millions were slaughtered without mercy. Reports flooded in like a torrential downpour. Each piece of news felt like a dagger piercing through Vincent's resolve. A hero emerges. In the aftermath of this tragedy, Vincent became a symbol, a beacon of hope for those who still believed in resistance against oppression. He knew that capitulation would only lead to more bloodshed. Humanity had to fight back with everything they had. "Prepare for war," he commanded his assembled officers as they gathered around him in grim determination. "We will not go down without a fight." Some leaders urged appeasement. They believed surrender could save lives. But Vincent understood that true survival lay in defiance, even if it meant losing everything. Preparing for war. As Earth braced itself for what was sure to be an all-out interstellar conflict, preparations began in earnest. Every available ship was mobilized, every soldier called to arms as humanity united against a common enemy. Vincent worked tirelessly alongside military strategists and scientists, devising plans that would exploit any weakness in their adversaries' technology while bolstering their own defenses. It was a race against time. Each passing moment brought them closer to annihilation. A call to arms. Meanwhile, across human colonies and allied worlds, messages were sent out calling for volunteers, those willing to fight for their homes and families against an enemy that sought their destruction. In response, veterans from past conflicts stepped forward alongside civilians who had never held a weapon before but were driven by an unyielding desire to protect their planet. It was more than just soldiers preparing for battle. It was an entire species rallying together under one banner. Humanity would not kneel before its oppressors. Vincent's rallying cry, on what would become known as Humanity Day, a day marked by unity against tyranny. Vincent addressed thousands gathered at military bases across Earth via holographic projection. "This is our home," he roared passionately, his voice echoing across every screen. "They believe us weak. They believe us beaten, but they have forgotten something vital, the spirit that burns within each one of us. We will show them what it means to threaten Earth." Cheers erupted from every corner as people raised their fists high in defiance, a roar that reverberated through cities and towns alike. Conclusion: a storm is coming. As preparations intensified and alliances formed with other alien races who shared their disdain for oppression, humanity stood on the precipice of war, a storm brewing on the horizon that promised both destruction and hope. Vincent knew this was only the beginning. They were about to face unimaginable odds against an enemy that vastly outnumbered them. But deep within his heart burned an unwavering belief that humanity would rise up, not just as individuals, but as one unified force ready to reclaim their destiny among the stars. With steely resolve etched on his face, Vincent prepared himself for what lay ahead, an epic confrontation between two worlds where only one could emerge victorious. As dawn broke once more over Earth, it signaled not just another day, but also the beginning of humanity's greatest fight, a fight for survival against all odds. A shattered peace. The aftermath of the Galactic Council's brutal attack on human colonies left Earth reeling. News of the slaughter spread like wildfire, igniting a firestorm of anger and despair among the populace. Families mourned their lost loved ones, and cities that once thrived with life now stood as grim reminders of the cost of defiance. Humanity had chosen to stand up against their oppressors, but the price was steep. Vincent Jackson, now a celebrated hero, felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. As he walked through the war room, he could see the faces of his fellow leaders, some resolute, others filled with doubt. The Council's merciless actions had united humanity in a way that no one could have anticipated, but it also revealed deep-seated divisions among Earth's leaders about how to respond. Internal conflicts. In one corner of the room, a group of leaders argued fervently for capitulation. "We must negotiate," shouted Senator Eliza Grant, her voice trembling with urgency. "We can't afford to lose any more lives. We need to find a way to coexist." Vincent's heart sank at her words. He understood the fear that drove her argument, but surrender was not an option. "If we negotiate now," he countered firmly, "we will only be seen as weak. The Council will demand more and more until we have nothing left." "But what about our people?" another leader interjected. "We can't just throw them into the meat grinder." Vincent raised his hand to silence the room. "Every day we delay is another day our enemies grow stronger. We must prepare for war, not just to defend ourselves, but to ensure that no other species suffers as we have." Preparing for war. With a heavy heart, Vincent began outlining a plan for mobilization. He knew that they needed every available ship and soldier to mount a defense against the inevitable onslaught from the Council's forces. The time for debate was over. It was time for action. "Admiral Chen," he called out to his military commander, "I want every fleet mobilized and ready for combat within 24 hours. We need to buy time for evacuation efforts in the colonies." As Admiral Chen nodded and began issuing orders, Vincent turned his attention to intelligence reports flooding in from across the galaxy. He needed to understand the Council's capabilities and weaknesses if they were to stand any chance in this fight. A hero's burden. Despite the chaos surrounding him, Vincent felt a sense of purpose ignite within him. He had always known that leadership came with sacrifices, but now it felt like an unbearable weight on his shoulders. He was no longer just an ambassador. He was humanity's last hope against annihilation. His thoughts drifted back to Marcus Reeves, his trusted lieutenant who had infiltrated the Raymond Command Center. Vincent had not heard from him since the attack began, and worry gnawed at him like an insatiable beast. Any word from Marcus? Vincent asked his intelligence chief. The chief shook his head grimly. No communication has been received since the initial report about the Council's plans for an assault on Earth. Vincent clenched his fists in frustration. They needed all hands on deck if they were going to survive this war. Rallying allies. As preparations continued, Vincent reached out to their allies across the galaxy, those who had suffered under the Council's oppressive rule or who recognized the threat they posed to free species everywhere. He sent messages through secure channels, urging them to join their fight against tyranny. One by one, responses began pouring in. The Valorian warrior clans pledged their blades and battle fury to Earth's cause, while Xerians offered advanced cloaking technology that would aid in their defenses. Vincent felt a flicker of hope ignite within him as he realized they were not alone in this struggle. The galaxy was watching and waiting. They would not stand idly by while humanity fought for its existence. A call to arms. On what would be known as Unity Day, a day marked by solidarity against oppression, Vincent addressed thousands gathered at military bases across Earth via holographic projection. "This is our home," he declared passionately, his voice echoing through every screen and speaker across human territories. "We will not let it fall. The Council believes us weak. They believe us beaten. But they have forgotten something vital, the spirit that burns within each one of us." Cheers erupted from every corner as people raised their fists high in defiance, a roar that reverberated through cities and towns alike. "We will show them what it means to threaten Earth," Vincent thundered, his eyes ablaze with determination. "For every drop of human blood they spill, we will take 1,000 of theirs. This is our solemn vow." The calm before the storm. As Unity Day came to an end, Vincent stood on a balcony overlooking a sea of faces filled with determination and resolve. He could feel their energy surging through him, a collective will that would not be extinguished easily. But even as hope flourished among humanity's ranks, dark clouds loomed on the horizon. Reports indicated that more Raymond ships were entering Earth's orbit, preparing for another wave of attacks. In the command center, Vincent studied tactical displays showing incoming enemy formations. His mind raced as he calculated their next move. He knew they had little time before disaster struck again. The first strike. The following morning brought chaos as alarms blared throughout military installations across Earth. The Raymond had launched an all-out assault on several key human colonies simultaneously, an attempt to crush any remaining resistance before it could take root. "Admiral Chen," Vincent shouted over the din of sirens and frantic voices. "What's our status?" "The 5th and 7th Fleets are engaging at Proxima Centauri and Bernard Star," Admiral Chen replied grimly. "But we're outgunned and outmatched." Vincent felt a surge of anger course through him at those words. Humanity could not afford to lose any more ground. "I want every available ship mobilized immediately," he ordered fiercely. "We must buy time for evacuation efforts. Not one more civilian dies on our watch." The cost of war. As Earth's defenses surged forward to meet the Raymond onslaught, Vincent turned his attention back to Marcus Reeves' last known location. He needed that intel if they were going to mount an effective counterattack. Suddenly, a transmission crackled over the comms system. A familiar face appeared on screen. Marcus Reeves looked drawn and haggard but determined. "Commander," Marcus said urgently, "I have critical intel. The Raymond are planning a massive assault on Earth itself. They mean to crush us once and for all." Vincent absorbed this news like a blow to the gut. It confirmed his worst fears. The Council intended not just subjugation but extermination. "You've done well, Marcus," Vincent said heavily. "Now get out of there." As Marcus' transmission ended abruptly due to interference, Vincent turned back toward his assembled officers with renewed determination etched on his face. "We have no choice now," he declared resolutely. We must defend Earth at all costs. Summon our allies. Rally the fleet. Send word to every corner of our colonies. We need every able-bodied human ready to fight for our very survival. A united front. Within hours, responses flooded in from every human world. Volunteers and veterans alike flocked forward to join the fight against their oppressors. It was more than just soldiers preparing for battle. It was an entire species rallying together under one banner. Humanity would not kneel before its oppressors. As night fell over Earth once more, Vincent stood before a gathering of human and allied forces. His heart swelled with pride at what they had accomplished together so far. This is our home, he roared again, echoing his earlier words from Unity Day as cheers erupted around him once more. We will not let it fall, he continued passionately as soldiers raised their weapons high in solidarity. An unbreakable bond forged in fire and fury against tyranny. Conclusion. A storm is brewing. As preparations intensified and alliances formed with other alien races who shared their disdain for oppression, humanity stood on the precipice of war, a storm brewing on the horizon that promised both destruction and hope. Vincent knew this was only the beginning. They were about to face unimaginable odds against an enemy that vastly outnumbered them. But deep within his heart burned an unwavering belief that humanity would rise up, not just as individuals, but as one unified force ready to reclaim their destiny among the stars. With steely resolve etched on his face once more, Vincent prepared himself for what lay ahead. A climactic confrontation between two worlds where only one could emerge victorious. As dawn broke once more over Earth, the beginning of another day, it signaled not just another morning but also humanity's greatest fight, a fight for survival against all odds. Call to arms. As the dust settled from the initial battles, Vincent Jackson stood resolute in the command center of Earth's defense fleet. The screens flickered with images of devastation, but also with hope, images of humanity uniting against a common foe. The Galactic Council had underestimated their resolve, and now it was time to rally every available force. Admiral Chen, Vincent called out, his voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. We need to mobilize every ship and soldier we can find. This is not just about Earth. It's about all free species across the galaxy. Chen nodded, quickly relaying orders to his officers. Vincent felt a surge of determination as he watched the crew spring into action. They were all aware of what was at stake. The survival of their species depended on their ability to fight back. Gathering allies. Vincent knew that Earth could not face the Galactic Council alone. He had already reached out to various allies across the galaxy, but now was the time to solidify those alliances. He turned to his communications officer. Send messages to our allies in the Valorian and Xerian systems, he instructed. We need their support now more than ever. Within hours, responses began flooding in. The Valorian warrior clans pledged their blades and battle fury to Earth's cause, while the Xerians offered advanced cloaking technology that would aid in their defenses. Each response filled Vincent with renewed hope. They were not alone in this fight. Training for battle. As preparations continued, Vincent understood that they needed more than just ships and weapons. They needed well-trained soldiers ready to face an enemy that had already demonstrated its ruthlessness. He ordered training exercises across all military installations on Earth and its colonies. Every able-bodied human must be prepared for combat. He announced during a broadcast that reached millions. We will not just defend our homes, we will take the fight to them. The response was overwhelming. Civilians flocked to military bases, eager to learn how to fight for their planet. Veterans from past conflicts stepped forward, sharing their knowledge and experience with those who had never held a weapon before. This was more than just a military effort. It was a movement, a united front against oppression. Vincent's vision. In the heart of the training camp, Vincent addressed a gathering of new recruits. Look around you, he said, gesturing at the diverse group standing before him. Men and women from every corner of Earth and its colonies. We are not just fighting for ourselves. We are fighting for future generations. We are fighting for freedom." The crowd erupted into cheers, their faces alight with determination. Vincent felt a swell of pride. He was no longer just an ambassador, but a leader rallying his people toward a common goal. The first strike plan. As training progressed, Vincent and his military advisors began formulating an offensive plan, Operation Freedom Strike. The objective was simple yet ambitious. They would strike at key council supply lines and military installations to weaken their forces before the next major confrontation. Admiral Chen, Vincent said during a strategy meeting, "We need to hit them hard and fast. If we can disrupt their supply chains, we'll gain a crucial advantage." Chen nodded in agreement. "We can deploy small strike teams equipped with stealth technology from our Xerian allies. They can infiltrate enemy territory without being detected." Vincent smiled at the suggestion. It was exactly what they needed, a way to strike without drawing too much attention. The infiltration teams. With plans set in motion, Vincent organized several infiltration teams composed of both human soldiers and Xerian operatives skilled in stealth tactics. Each team would target different council facilities across multiple colonies. "Remember," Vincent reminded them during their briefing, "you are not just soldiers. You are freedom fighters. Your mission is critical for our survival." As they prepared for deployment, Vincent felt a mix of excitement and anxiety wash over him. This operation could turn the tide of war if executed successfully. A moment of reflection. The night before Operation Freedom Strike commenced, Vincent stood on the observation deck of his flagship, gazing out at the stars twinkling in the vastness of space. It was hard to believe how quickly everything had changed, from peaceful existence to preparing for war. He thought about those who had already lost their lives in this conflict, the brave souls who had stood against tyranny only to be silenced forever. Their sacrifices weighed heavily on him as he vowed silently that he would do everything in his power to honor their memory by ensuring humanity's survival. The launch. As dawn broke over Earth, Vincent gathered his command staff one last time before launching Operation Freedom Strike. "Today marks a turning point in our struggle," he declared passionately. "We will show the Galactic Council that humanity will not be crushed." With that rallying cry echoing in their hearts, they initiated launch protocols for all strike teams heading toward enemy territory. Striking at dawn. The first wave of infiltration teams slipped silently through space aboard cloaked vessels provided by the Xerians. Each team moved with precision as they approached their designated targets. Raymond's supply depots scattered across various colonies. Marcus Reeves led one such team into a heavily fortified facility on Crax Prime. As they disembarked from their ship, Marcus felt adrenaline coursing through him. This was what they had trained for. This was their chance to make a difference. "Stay sharp," he whispered to his team as they moved through shadows toward the heart of enemy operations. Chaos unleashed. As each team executed its mission flawlessly, chaos erupted across Raymond installations as explosives detonated one after another. The element of surprise worked in humanity's favor. Raymond forces scrambled to respond while Marcus and his team planted charges on critical infrastructure. "Get out now." Vincent's voice crackled back urgently through the earpiece. Marcus led his team through narrow corridors filled with smoke and debris until they reached their extraction point just as sirens blared throughout the compound, a clear sign that reinforcements were on their way. Regrouping for battle. Back on Earth, Vincent monitored every detail from Command Central as reports flooded in about successful strikes across multiple locations. Each victory bolstered morale among troops preparing for larger confrontations ahead. But even amidst these successes, tension hung thick in the air. The Council would retaliate soon enough. They would not take these attacks lightly. Preparing for counterattack. As expected, within hours after Operation Freedom Strike concluded successfully came news of Raymond counterattacks aimed directly at human colonies left vulnerable due to disrupted supply lines. Vincent gathered his officers once more, this time under much darker circumstances than before. "Admiral Chen," he said gravely, We need every ship ready for immediate deployment. Chen nodded solemnly as alarms blared throughout Command Central, signaling incoming enemy vessels approaching Earth's orbit. The battle begins again. The forces of humanity surged forward once more into battle against overwhelming odds. But this time they were prepared. This time they fought not just for survival, but also for vengeance against those who sought to destroy them. Vincent stood resolute at the helm of his flagship as chaos erupted around him. The cries of battle mingling with determined shouts from soldiers readying themselves once again against tyranny's relentless advance. "Let them come," he shouted defiantly into the void as weapons fired up around him. The fight for freedom had only just begun. Conclusion. The fight continues. As ships clashed amidst fiery explosions, lighting up space like stars gone rogue, the spirit of humanity burned brighter than ever before, a testament that no matter how daunting an enemy might seem or how dark things may appear, there would always be hope as long as people were willing to stand together against oppression. With steely resolve etched upon his face once more, Vincent prepared himself for what lay ahead, a climactic confrontation between two worlds where only one could emerge victorious.